This week's game is Spookum, a game in which you play a ghost who has to chase kids out of his haunted house before they're murdered by an evil teddy bear. I'm Michael Corlum, a writer and game developer who is making a game every week on the side while I try to find work in the industry. Spookum started out as a top-down maze chase game, the most famous of which is Pac-Man. I didn't want to make a dot-eating game, so I brainstormed a few ideas of other things you might do in a top-down maze. Collect items, eliminate enemies, run out the clock. I settled on a game where you, a ghost, need to chase away all the kids before time runs out. That's not exactly the game I ended up with, though, and that's largely a factor of Godot's pathfinding. I spent a whole day trying to figure out its Navigation Agent 2D code, and if you only give yourself a week, a day is a lot of your development time. I wasn't able to get my AI code to the point where it would make sharp turns and stop trying to clip through corners, so I went from a tightly packed graveyard maze concept to something more open, a haunted house. Getting the basic mechanics down was quick after that. Your ghost could float around, scare the children, and they'd run out of the map. While experimenting with the player's acceleration and friction, I hit on numbers that gave the player a very kinda drifty, floaty movement, so because I'd moved away from the tight maze, decided that the player should be able to float through walls while the kids had to go around the physical objects. That was this game's happy accident. Adding the enemy, Mr. Longshanks, to the game was something I'd planned from the beginning as an if-I-have-time enhancement, and I'm glad that I did have time. I don't think the game would be anywhere as engaging if you were simply trying to scare away the maximum number of kids in the time allotted. Generally speaking, I give myself 1 day to brainstorm ideas, 2 days to implement the core mechanics, 2 days to create the sprites, sound, and levels, and a day for polish, but this week was tight because of an unexpected family emergency and some narrative consulting work. I really think that Longshanks, a possessed teddy bear that murders the kids if it catches them, drives the game, so I made the object to scare off more kids than Longshanks can murder. The art this time was relatively easy. As placeholders during development, I reused some sprite sheets from the platform game I did last week. With the ghost, I simply added a new boo animation, and the kids ended up as variants of the 8x8 player sprite. The walls and floor tiles I made from scratch, along with the sprites of the various objects in the mansion. I also created the music and sound effects using the online tools Chiptone and Beatbox. As of this time, I consider the project complete, but with sufficient interest I could come back and flesh it out a little bit more. There isn't much I'd do to improve Spookum. I'd sharpen up the furniture sprites so they didn't look so flat, add maybe some more objects to fill out the house, and tweak Longshank's AI and the game's overall difficulty curve a bit. I think that even when everyone's faster, the idea that all it takes to win is to scare off more kids than you save is a little easy, so I would probably cap the kids you can lose at 3 or 5. I might also implement a second evil spirit, the Lady, who has a different hunting and target seeking pattern. But for now, I'm happy with Spookum as it is, and looking forward to next week's project. You can play Spookum online at itch.io, and if you like what I'm doing, you can support the development of these games at patreon.com/mcorlin. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to keep catching these devlog videos.